Hey folks, Ben here. Just wanted to give you a quick heads up about the audio in this episode. I had a different recording setup on my end than usual, so my audio might be a little quieter than the norm. Things will be back to normal for future episodes, but I just wanted to give you folks a heads up about this one. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoy. Hello and welcome back to Coffee Kurosawa, where a film obsessive sits down with a film fan to talk about film. I am Ben Filipkowski, your resident film obsessive.
And I am Farrah Sarpkaya, a person who loves film, but like in a super chill, I have some peppermint cocoa and I am ready to go full holiday cozy sort of way.
And today we are talking about The Holiday, a 2006 rom-com written and directed by Nancy Meyers. And because it's a rom-com, we thought it would be fun to bring in our better halves to join us on this holiday bonus episode.
You didn't think you were going to talk about my favorite movie without me, did you, Ben? My name is Rachel Newcomb Filipkowski. I've got a degree in culture and film studies that I've partially forgotten, making me a film and narrative lover with just a dash of technical knowledge.
I'm Brandon Shoup, the other half to the amazingly talented Farrah Sarpkaya. I'm just a guy who likes watching movies, especially with my friends.
And today we are diving into my favorite movie. So put your jingle bells on silent, get your cocoa marshmallowed, and let's dive in.
All right, let's get into a quick little summary of this wonderful movie. In the dumps and depressed over heartbreak during the Christmas season, London society columnist Iris and busy movie trailer executive Amanda desperately need vacations. Nay, they need a holiday. Amanda finds Iris's idyllic Cotswolds cottage on a home swap website, and Iris is ready for some Californian Christmas sun in LA. Soon enough, both women bump into local lads. Amanda meets Iris's brother Graham, and Iris meets Miles, a film score composer. And they both learn to love themselves, even as they fall in love with someone new. Along the way, Iris helps old Hollywood screenwriter Arthur Adams connect with his legacy and the world around him once more. By the end, Iris says goodbye to the toxic elements in her life, and Amanda gets a vision of a different sort of life than she ever thought she'd have. So, that's really simplifying what this movie does and what it is. But I'm going to put it out to the group here. And I think I'm going to throw it over to my wonderful, sweet, beautiful wife, Rachel. Why do you love this one so dang much?
Oh, I think, well, let's go back to 2006. I mean, this is the peak, the Everest of those romantic comedy movies that you just really can't get enough of in that time. I mean, boy meets girl, girl meets boy, fall in love, sweet moments, first kisses. It's just, they don't make them like that anymore. And so something that I really loved about this movie, double the romance. I mean, you've got two main women, two love interests. I mean, the first time I watched this movie, firmly in the Graham camp. Now I'm more of a Miles stan, but at the time, I mean, Jude Law in glasses. You can't. You just can't. Let's have a moment for Jude Law in glasses.
Are we
Yes.
holding space for Jude Law in glasses? Is that how the kids say it?
I think that's how the kids say it, holding space. Today I hold space for Miles and his humor and his sensitivity, but my mom handed me this movie on a DVD, and I just couldn't get over how much I loved it. It was almost like, I don't even know how to put it into words. It just hit me right in the heart. It in a warm and fuzzy way. And it does it every single time I watch it. It's everything you want in a rom-com, and it's a Christmas movie on top of it. And I don't know if Ben's talked about it on here, but I know all my co-hosts know how much I love Christmas. Yeah. So it's a perfect formula to get a 10 out of 10 out of Rachel's book.
I think by the time this comes out, people will have listened to an episode where one of the things I talk about watching is all your Hallmark Christmas movies through osmosis. try as I might, they sneak in there because I'll be hanging out in the living room while you're watching something, and then I get sucked in. Yeah.
Yeah, despite your best efforts, you know who Rachel Boston is.
Yes, I do. Deep cut. That's a deep cut right there.
Well, it's funny because like I love me a romance novel. The cheesier the better. But I've never been a rom-com movie person, and I don't know why, but this one just gets me, or at least for a long time it did. The latest rewatch, I was like, I had some feelings. I don't know. But so now we know where Rachel stands. We know, I assume, where Ben stands, somewhere in that direction of like enjoying it. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I like it. One of the things this has going for it is the massive hotness of both Cameron Diaz and Jude Law.
I'm sorry. Did you just say the massive hotness of Jude Law and Cameron Diaz while ignoring Kate Winslet, Jack Black, and Kathryn Hahn are all in this movie? How dare you?
I think,
It's a hot cast.
It is a hot cast. But truly, the hottest in terms of talent, the wonderful, the inimitable, the iconic Eli Wallach as Arthur Adams is like, he's the reason I watch and love this movie, I think. He is old school Hollywood in just kind of like brought to the present day. It's truly wonderful. I have a fun detail about him that I read about that I can share later. But yeah, I really enjoy this. I did not watch it until Rachel and I started dating 7 years ago now. And as a result, I think we've watched it once every year because it's kind of become a Christmas tradition for us. At least once every year. I'm sure there are years where we've watched it like 3 or 4 times.
I would say you watch it once a year. I watch it 3 or 4 times a year easily.
So you're firmly into like, I don't know, triple digits watching this maybe?
Not triple digits,
You gotta
but
be
definitely
close.
double digits.
The high
I didn't
doubles.
see this movie till around 2010, 2011. So, double digits for sure.
Cool. So this brings us to Brandon. You shared ahead of this that maybe you might not be as keen on this as the rest of us.
Maybe not. I hadn't seen this until Farrah and I started dating more than 11 years ago at this point. I've seen it a handful of times now, and I think I understand why you guys like it. It's a very idealized rom-com, right? Like everybody's happy pretty much the whole time. They're learning about themselves, learning about new people. Mm-hmm. Some of the characters just rub me the wrong way, I think. Like, I'm not a big fan of Graham. I think Miles,
Interesting.
pretty great character, though. And Arthur, obviously, I think is the best part of the whole movie.
Okay, fair. So, I guess you're singling out Jude Law's massive hotness, clearly.
I am. Yeah, I gotta call him out on it.
Too hot.
Too hot for this Christmas movie. What is there anything like specific about Graham that rubs you the wrong way?
I mean, I think the whole thing. Obviously, every interaction in this movie is basically a meet cute, but Graham and Amanda's meet cute is Graham showing up at his sister's house. We're getting into the plot a little bit, I guess. So showing up at his sister's house drunk, finding Amanda there, kind of, not pushing his way in, but like very, very strongly asking if he can stay there with this person that he's never met before. Amanda hasn't even met Iris at this point.
Yeah.
Like, they swapped houses, but I don't think they've ever met.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and
it does.
The idea of a meet cute being a drunk guy showing up and crashing on the couch of your Airbnb, it's just, it's a little weird.
It does read differently. Close to 20 years.
And that's absolutely, yeah, that is absolutely a thing that I notice, is that it hasn't maybe aged as well, and maybe if I had seen it when I was younger, I would have enjoyed it more.
Yeah.
I also want to just interject super fast and say I just Googled it. The Holiday came out in 2006, right?
Yeah.
Airbnb was born in 2007.
Oh, okay. Well,
So,
yeah, maybe
I mean, this
big,
was even pre-Airbnb.
Yeah, maybe this gave Airbnb the idea.
We too could
Can you
have
imagine?
drunk guys insisting on crashing on the couch of the place that their sibling is renting out.
I mean,
It is also, yeah.
that whole Airbnb premise is also kind of a thing that I didn't enjoy about this movie. It's insane to just like randomly look up and start talking with somebody and swap houses halfway across the world. And I understand that it's a suspension of disbelief kind of thing, but like, I guess like human trafficking just doesn't exist in this universe. Like nobody ever has to worry about that.
Like, I mean, you gotta have like a little bit of salt there of disbelief, because yeah, it's a rom-com. It's like,
yeah, you have to, absolutely.
Also, she's like a high power, super rich movie producer or something, right?
Amanda,
so like
yeah.
Amanda is. So like she wouldn't Google pre-Google, where do I go on vacation? She would go to a person who organizes vacations.
No, but isn't...
Pay someone
Oh,
to
you mean
do
in
that.
the real world, yes. Yeah, and because she did do exactly that in the movie, right? She Googled
No, I'm saying
vacation.
she wouldn't.
Yeah, you're right.
In
yeah.
the real world, someone that well off would not just Google a random like house to go stay in. They would like go to a travel agent. They go to a travel agent, you know? But that's the beauty of romance. The cheesy weirdness.
I mean, 100%. As a single woman, would I swap houses with someone I met on the internet? No. Like, I'm not doing that. That's terrifying. But, and I will say, the last time I watched this movie, and the last few times I've watched this movie, that Amanda Graham meet scene does give me a bit of cringe.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of mentally check out for those 3 minutes, because I'm like, ugh. But it takes me back to my college days, which is why I check out. Because I'm like, oh, I've been there, done that. I went to a party school. I had people drunkenly running up and down our hallways thinking our apartment was somebody else's. Like, it's a bit juvenile, so I totally get why it would rub you the wrong way. I think I've just seen it so many times that I'm able to kind of gloss over that in my head. I'm like, oh, here's that scene. What do we need for groceries next week?
I think the thing that threw me off the most about that scene that I've never noticed before, that he says a line that's something to the effect of like, either you're not my sister or I'm much drunker than I think I am. And the implication, I think, is that he thought he found his sister really sexy, which was a little strange. But also I got the joke, but also it was a little weird. And I was like, wait, did I rewind that? I don't know.
I've never read into that like that.
That joke has never, I've never understood that joke until I listened to it this time and I went, wait.
I thought it was that like,
Is that?
my read on it has always been like he thinks that he's so drunk that he cannot recognize someone's features.
Yeah.
That feels better.
Visual impairment. And that, I mean, visual impairment through drinking alcohol does occur.
Okay.
I also think it's like really, it's a little weird to, I mean, I don't want to just focus on like, you know, problematic, you know, relationship politics from 2000, close to 20 years ago, but
Yeah.
he is ostensibly drunk and they hook up, like they sleep together.
Yep.
But then later on in the movie, she gets so drunk, and she's like, "Oh, and did we have sex?" And he's like, "Oh well, you know, where I'm from, one does not have.
Yeah, I'm
one does not
old-fashioned.
sleep with
Uh-huh.
people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who cannot stand up, which is very
Right.
like. So I think he's
She
he's
just did
playing
that.
up his tipsiness for sure.
Yeah.
In that they're kind of mean cute.
And he does say that too. I think
Yeah.
either the next morning or later on he says like I'm not that drunk, and he's like, you know, he isn't slurring his words at least or anything. He's clearly tipsy.
Yeah.
But if she's unconscious after the other,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Very different.
she did go out drinking with the English.
yeah,
Which,
That's-
you know, you got to know what you're getting into there.
Yeah, I can't hang.
Yeah.
So
That said, though,
yeah.
it is. We have our meet cutes. I still am fully like Iris and Miles meet cute. It also has its weirdness, but also is a little less, well, immediate, I guess. But they just have a much more like friendly vibe than oh, I would like to enjoy your company like adults kind of, you know.
Yeah, I
which I
appreciated that.
appreciate.
It's the slow burn, which I really
Yeah.
love. But I think the more you go back and watch it, the further and further we get from the early aughts. I've noticed that body language in films between either characters of opposite biological sex or characters that they're setting up to be romantic leads. In the early aughts, people were more touchy. There was
Yeah.
the casual cheek
That's
kiss.
true.
There was the, you know, in the holiday specifically, Iris gets something in her eye and Miles helps her. You wouldn't really see that in a movie from a year ago. Like that casual physical affection or physical intimacy between acquaintances and friends, I just don't see as much in film. And I was saying to Ben, you know, I grew up and my parents were very affectionate with their friends. A lot of hugging, cheek kissing. And my friends don't really do that with people that they're not super close to, like their
Yeah.
romantic partners. I'm a hugger, so I mean they'll do it to me. But I think that colors it a little bit.
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh, like that's kind of awkward or that's kind of weird. But in 2006, it probably wasn't.
It's interesting that you point that out because when we first watched this last night, I even said to Farrah like, I'm not really a fan of Miles, and I can't imagine liking him more because of that initial scene where he's like, he gets right up to her face and is a complete stranger and just like goes and picks something out of her eye while dispersing this like weird wisdom about the wind. And it just like in today's movies, I would assume that guy is going to turn out to be like a douchebag because they usually do. It comes across as very like disingenuous, I guess. But in this movie, it's not. He's being 100% sincere. And once I realized that, then I was like, oh yeah, okay, Miles is great. You know, he's a little weird, sings in a movie store, but he's just having fun. Like he's a nice guy and he's a good character. I like him.
Yeah, and it's doubly interesting because everything that he does and engages in, if you kind of played it straight today, you would kind of be kind of coded as almost an incel, because like he's very
Yeah.
he's complaining about being in the friend zone in many ways. With
Very much so,
this-
yeah.
This girl that he's madly, I don't know. He's like
That
there's some
character
element- I'm really grossly oversimplifying it because Rachel just gave me a look there, but
No, I know what you mean. It's like he
Yeah.
would be coded like one of the comic book nerds in Big Bang Theory or something nowadays.
He really falls into. I'm going to disagree with Ben on the whole incel coded friend zone thing.
yeah,
But he does hit some of the notes on the quote unquote nice guy trope.
that's what I'm
Yeah.
looking for. Yes,
Yeah,
that's
where
what I'm
it's
looking
like,
for.
oh, like girls say they want nice guys and then they don't really.
Yeah,
But that's generally said today. by guys who are genuinely not nice.
Yeah.
And it's a really skewed view of self.
Yeah.
Whereas
Yeah.
when Miles says it, I mean, there's a bit of that self-pitying thing there. But
Only
it's backed
right
up by
after he
him.
finds out that his girlfriend
I
was
think-
cheating on him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think he's justified in saying, like, why do I always fall for the bad girls?
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah,
well,
sure.
she's not nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think if it had been a bit more like he's pining after this girl
Yeah.
and saying, why doesn't she like nice guys? It would have given me the ick.
Yeah.
But it's him being like, God, like, why am I always attracted to people who don't treat me properly?
Yes.
So I do get what you're
Yeah.
saying. And he does hit some of those notes, but the way they wrote the character, he is genuinely nice.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
it
his-
doesn't ring as false.
Yeah.
Right. His friendship with Kate Winslet is like, it's so just, it's nice, right? Like they don't even give a hint of the romance at any point until Miles is
Sushi
broken up.
restaurant.
Yeah, right. Until he's like broken up with his previous girlfriend. Before
Yeah.
that, 100% platonic. They're like hanging out and doing stuff, but they're just friends, and it's really nice to see.
I'm gonna verbally recant my earlier read.
Yes.
Yeah.
I do find it really interesting too that like Cameron Diaz and Jude Law, the Amanda and Graham pairing, the editor and the movie producer, are coded as like the leading couple because she's this blonde bombshell and he's Jude Law, right?
Yeah.
And then Kate Winslet and Jack Black are the friend character. Just as Arthur kind of suggested, right? She's the best friend. She is not the leading lady, usually. And Jack Black is not what you would usually see in rom-coms in the 2010s. Because even back then, you know, he was a average guy. He was not a Jude Law. Not to say he wasn't very handsome back in the day, just as he is now. But, like, the two of them aren't the same, like, tier of what you would expect to see in a rom-com. But I like it better. And I think that there's something charming about the fact that they have this very chaotic, like, the cliche rom-com nonsense with Amanda and Graham. And then you have just, like, a really lovely, heartwarming friendship story with Iris and Miles that just turns into love. And it's two very different takes on a rom-com in one movie.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I like about it so much. You have that friends to lovers, softer evolution, and then you have the more passionate commitment phobes making that leap together. And so you get, it's a little bit of something for everybody. You get a few different flavors of romance.
I would argue that Graham and Amanda is also kind of an inversion of some of the usual tropes. Because, you know, he's the guy who looked for, like, Graham falls madly in love with her first. And there's kind of this element of who he is. Like, he's almost trying to reassure her, like, hey, don't worry about me. I'm tough. I can handle it if you don't want to get committed or anything. And he's absolutely not able to handle it. He's heartbroken. But I think it's interesting because he's the more emotional character of the two of them, whereas I think traditionally, air quotes traditionally, in probably mainstream rom-com movies, it would be like the man is emotionally closed off, and it's this woman who kind of teaches him to feel again. But it's very, I don't know, I think that's an interesting little conversion.
Yeah. It really is. I think as I've gotten older, I just look at Jude Law's character and I get judgy. And I hate that for me because I really want to enjoy it. But then Cameron Diaz's Amanda just comes barreling into his life, this man who lost his wife, 2 years prior, which is a drop in the bucket for someone with children. And, like, intrudes on their little coziness, which, on the one hand, heartwarming, delightful. On the other hand, that's a lot of mess to bring around some kids. I don't know, man.
I think, and this is one of my speaking notes. One of the things I like so much about the movie is that the couples are essentially holding up mirrors to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the Amanda and Graham case, both of them have commitment issues stemming from loss. I mean, Amanda alludes to it with her parents divorcing. There was really no reason to mention that other than to seed the idea in the viewer's head that she struggles with true intimacy and connection. And that was what her ex-boyfriend kind of accused her of, was like, you never even gave us a chance. Graham, as you said, lost his wife. He's very protective of his children and that life they've built together. Mm-hmm. They've both chosen to compartmentalize. They keep their romantic selves separate from their other selves. And to be honest, like, in romance in general, if you don't kind of leap in with both feet, you're not making forward progress. And if you've talked about it and you've reached a point where you don't want to proceed, that's fine. But Amanda and Graham in this movie consistently choose to make steps towards that leap. But it is abrasive, you're right. I mean, he shows up drunk at her doorstep. She shows up and at his house, and Santa Baby's playing in the background, which I thought also was a wild choice, given he has small daughters.
Also, how did she figure out where he lives?
Such a good point.
It's
It bothers me every time.
It's a small town.
I got to assume a phone book, right?
I'm assuming Iris has him as emergency contact. Yeah. Like, hey, if something happens with the house or the dog.
Yeah.
That's fair. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah. So I just really liked that they were mirroring each other, and in each other they saw what compartmentalizing and like choosing not to commit to someone who may be worth it, what that would mean for them. And they did decide to take that leap. Mm-hmm. Even though, you know, it wasn't quite at the same time. I mean, he told her that he loved her and would make it work. She said long distance was just going to be too hard. And then she did that dumbass. Sorry, can I say that?
Yeah, of course.
Okay.
No,
dumbass running scene.
Yes.
Oh, that's the scene. That's another scene where I'm like, I can check out for the next 5 minutes. But they do ultimately choose each other, which feels good in your little teenage heart when you're watching this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Totally.
I also just want to point out how brutal it is that he's like, here's an idea, I'm in love with you. And like pours his heart out, and her response is to basically go, wow. Oh wow. That's crazy.
But to
if
be honest,
the answer is not
better,
immediate come to mind.
if you were in this kind of weird situationship with someone for 10 days at this point,
Yeah, you literally.
and he said,
literally
here's
live a couple
something,
days
I'm
ago.
in love with you.
Yeah.
I'm grabbing my socks. I'm sneaking out the door in the morning. I'm leaving a lovely tender note saying I don't want to talk to them again.
But I guess
because
I mean, you
that
can
is a
also
lot.
look at it. It is a lot, but I mean, I guess if you look at it from the perspective of the fact that he's a widower, he has 2 kids already, like he's absolutely already at the point in his life where he's looking to probably settle down again, and like whoever he ends up dating, he's looking for permanency at least.
Yeah.
Maybe he wasn't ready to date right away, but
yeah, he's very clearly in this like strange, possibly self-destructive cycle of like, I'm going to the pub on the weekends, getting drunk,
right.
Having one night
and
stands.
hooking up with sexy ladies. And
Yeah, it's a regular. Right. He says he kisses random people all the time. He kisses strangers all the time. It's like, no, Jude Law, no, you're not supposed to do that.
Jude Law, no.
Go on one date,
Yeah.
one normal date during the daytime.
Don't kiss strangers.
But I think that also illustrates kind of that two people who are I don't want to say commitment averse, but they've compartmentalized these parts of their lives. And then when they meet each other, you're the person it's worth giving my whole self to.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it's supposed to set it up.
Yeah.
And
True,
same
yeah.
with Iris and Miles. I
Yeah.
mean, they both really struggle with their self-confidence in their romantic life, and it's kind of affecting how they view themselves. And there's that really, really great scene where Miles and Iris are on the sofa, and she says, I know it's hard to believe when people say they know how you feel, but I actually do. And she goes into that long thing, and they're holding up a mirror to each other, and you know, you look at someone, it's that saying, you wouldn't say this about your best friend, so why do you say it about yourself?
Yeah.
And it really, snaps them out of it. And I mean, she has a close call with Jasper, but then she absolutely kicks his ass out the door, and it's such a good moment.
Yeah.
And Miles does the same off camera,
Yeah.
and it's like, hey, and then they're straight and upfront about what they want.
Yeah.
It's like, will you go out with me?
Yeah.
And as a teenage girl and someone who also went to a party school, my God, how much would I have loved a clear, simple ask.
You know, you needed an Arthur Adams.
I did need an Arthur Adams.
Just like coach you into your to help your inner leading lady shine.
Yes, it probably would have happened a lot faster if I'd had my own holiday Obi-Wan.
So, I mean, like, with that, we got to talk about Arthur. Because we've gone,
My heart.
like, what, 30 minutes without talking about Arthur? We got to talk about
Yeah,
Arthur.
we got to talk about him.
I want to point out that, you know, if you're watching this movie and you've watched just like a bunch of old school westerns and stuff, you probably recognize Eli Wallach. He was in The Magnificent Seven. He was in The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, in like super iconic roles. It rules. He was in The Godfather Part 3. Like,
What?
yeah.
Specifically Part 3?
Specifically the part no one liked. He's very good at it. So
That's fine.
yeah. So Rach, you have, I think, some deep thoughts on Arthur.
I don't know if it's deep thoughts, but I just love this mutually nurturing relationship between him and Iris. Because I think he really approaches it. I don't mean this in a condescending way. He approaches her as a project. He does not like to see a woman like her be so hard on herself. And it's that line where he's like, you're acting like the best friend instead of the leading lady you're in your own life. And I think it takes him a while to see that she is nurturing him right back and showing him, or not necessarily showing him, but giving him a quality of life that had been missing.
Yeah.
They reminded each other of their worth. And one of my favorite things in movies is those platonic relationships where each person is richer for having the other person. It's just so, there's no expectations. It's just people choosing each other and choosing to be kind and choosing to be loving and nurturing. And so, yeah, I mean, Arthur Adams forever. I mean, they were just lovely together on screen. They had great chemistry.
Oh, yeah.
Interestingly, apparently Eli Wallach was like, must have been in his mid to late 80s when this was being filmed.
I believe so.
And Nancy Meyers had to tell him to slow down and not be so energetic. Like, he was just like a bundle of energy on set, apparently.
Mr. Wallach, you're too fit for an old guy.
You're supposed to be playing an old man. Take it down a couple
Yeah, he still
notches.
had 10 years of movie making after that.
Yeah.
And I love that for him.
Yeah, he's fantastic. And just the whole, like, I think the kind of, like, Iris is going to get him in shape for this big was it the WGA?
A
Kind of
Night with Arthur
celebrating-
Abbott.
Night with Arthur.
We've been
Arthur-
calling him
Have we
Adams.
been calling him Adams?
Yeah, it's Arthur Abbott.
It's Arthur Abbott.
I want to formally apologize to all the holiday fans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're better, and we're sorry.
We're self-correcting.
But it is the Writers Guild of America is trying to celebrate his legacy, his career, and he's kind of standoffish about it. He gets into gala shape with help from Iris, and he teaches her all about old Hollywood, and not so subtly nurtures a budding relationship with Miles just by putting them in the same room together.
I don't actually think that was really his intention.
I think it was his intention.
Oh, I think it was. There's that scene when they're at dinner, right, where he asks Miles about his significant other, and Miles says she's off somewhere, and then Arthur gets everybody else up to leave the two youngins alone. He pretty
That's true.
explicitly does that, I think.
Yeah,
Little Cupid
Oh,
playing.
yeah, just a little bit.
He knows the meet cute, and he knows when he sees one, and he can facilitate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fantastic.
He is.
And can I say, Iris is a miracle worker for getting him off of a walker and cane in, what, like 2 weeks?
Less than.
Less than.
Yeah,
That's impressive.
yeah.
Yeah.
Sure is.
And the iconic music that is composed for him. Oh, wonderful.
So good.
Oh, yeah.
I want a prequel rom-com with him and his wife.
I
That's
was
what
just
I
gonna
Yes.
say, I want that too.
Oh my gosh. Hays Code Hollywood. Oh man.
Whew. Whew.
But
Be steamy.
I'd watch the heck out of that.
Yeah.
I love the kind of the movie's not really like overtly meta in the way that we would think of kind of like meta-textual, meta-fictional narratives are these days. Like it's very like he explains what a meet cute is, but there are never any moments where anyone's like, oh my god, I'm in a meet cute, and they're using film terminology and tropes to kind of help them relate to each other's lives in a sense, which is kind of nice.
And I love that it's almost a guide for the audience.
Yeah.
Like Arthur Abbott is like, here, this is what a meet cute is. And then it's like
Yeah.
you get to start going, oh, that's a meet cute.
Yeah.
Oh, I can start pulling this formula together. And it's so deeply satisfying, even though you know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And
It feels like you're in on it a little bit.
yeah. And it's kind of the same with Amanda's movie trailers. She is the go-to movie trailer editor, which is apparently super lucrative. And I was like, I just now thought that's implausible. I looked it up. It's not uncommon for someone to make $150K a year doing this even now. So imagine in 2006 when they actually paid people things. Just out of this world. But I love that she has those moments where movie trailer voice guy interjects. and
I
comments.
love him.
I was very confused by those. I wasn't sure if it was just... I mean, she's clearly reacting to the narrator's voice. So was it trying to portray it as like that's her inner dialogue going, or does she have like some level of schizophrenia, or...
No, I think it really juxtaposes. She spends so much of her life putting together these clips with these voiceovers. And so then it kind of became the through line of like, this is kind of how she thinks.
Yeah.
And this is how she approaches a situation in her life. And so when she's in this situation, what would the trailer guy say?
Yeah. In a world.
Of total destruction.
In a world without Airbnb.
I feel like it
Two
was
women.
it was weird that they only did it twice. I feel like they should have done it either more or less.
But then they also
Yeah.
have the trailer that she's working on for, I swear, I know it's not a real movie, but you cannot convince me that it's not There's that Shia LaBeouf movie from around this time, Eagle Eye.
Oh,
And
yes.
I see this trailer and I'm like, this is the same movie. Like they're playing it for laughs, but it's the same movie. So they kind of
Why do you have two guns?
Yeah.
I didn't think one would be enough.
God,
That's a
what
good line. I do like that.
Yeah.
It's James DeFranco and
Christmas
Lindsay
Day.
Lohan.
Yeah.
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 Two.
Make that
stars
movie, Hollywood.
Two stars whose fortunes have waxed and waned.
I don't know. Lindsay Lohan's. She's on her
making a
way.
comeback.
She's
on her
back.
way.
She's making a comeback. But
She just did a holiday movie, actually, if I recall correctly.
but the and then of course Kathy Kahn is in this for
And John
2
Krasinski.
seconds.
For 2
And
seconds,
John
yeah.
Krasinski.
This movie is so weirdly
Yeah.
stacked in the side character department
Yeah.
because you have John Krasinski, Catherine Hahn. I just realized on this last watch through that in the opening scene when Miles is composing music and the two people are kissing, that the guy, I think his name's Alex Laughlin, the lead for Hawaii Five-0.
Oh.
The TV show.
The TV show.
2000s TV show.
Yeah.
The original.
And I was like, what are you doing in there?
Well, it's that.
Yeah,
This comes out in that era when you have like Love Actually, and what's not about a boy, like a whole bunch of just these kind of
Bridget Jones.
Notting
Bridget
Hill.
Jones, Notting Hill, all these like
Oh, yeah.
not strictly completely UK productions are coming out, but it's like this kind of like fresh batch of talent, and they're all in the same things all the time for like 5 years, and then things like spread out a bit more.
This was like Colin Firth's heyday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm shocked he wasn't in this movie, to be honest.
He was
He
actually
would
the
have
movie
been
trailer.
Graham on, like I could see him being Graham for sure. But
Yeah,
he was
100%.
I think he's just not quite suave enough.
Yeah.
He's too like cute.
Foppish.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I feel like he could have done Jasper pretty good too, though.
Oh, he would have been
Ooh.
Yeah.
a good Jasper.
I could see that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. I love to hate Rufus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, I hate you so much every time
Yeah,
he
he's
comes
a-
on screen.
Yeah.
Because I've known people like that
Yeah.
who don't want you, but can't not have you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh.
They keep you around, but they're not committing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He is the toxic nice guy to Miles's
Genuine nice guy.
Yeah.
Nice guy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jasper is kind of like that. I say it and I don't mean it. Miles is I say it and I mean it.
Yeah.
So like when he tells
yeah.
Iris, he's like, "You look beautiful." She genuinely believes him. Whereas Jasper, it's like,
Yeah.
dude, you're engaged. Like if you think I'm beautiful, you would have done something about this by
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
Well, there's a line that moment when they're on the couch and they're reunited and she's so happy that he's here with her and flew across the ocean to be with her, and then she realizes, wait, you didn't answer my question. Are you still engaged? That was such good writing.
Yeah.
I loved that moment because you're like, oh snap, you
Yeah.
got him.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had a lot of good writing for Iris like that. There's an earlier scene when Jasper's first asked her to like edit the article that he was doing or whatever, and calls her on the phone, and she had like previously in that scene she had woken up with the blinds raised up, it was sunny, she like woke up and stretched and was like super happy, and then Jasper calls and asks her to do this thing, and then like as she's talking to him she just gets like more and more down and like falls back into bed and then eventually closes the blinds again, and I felt like it was such a good representation of how that kind of relationship makes you feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think the reason that I love this, like, there are other rom-coms that I enjoy, like Notting Hill I really liked, Bridget Jones is a classic, Pretty Woman is one of my favorite movies of all time, but like, this movie, there's this thing in like book criticism where like there's fiction with a capital F that's like real fiction, and then there's like cheesy romance movie or books, and they're like not taken as seriously because they're like women's literature, or like their stories don't matter, or they're like too warm and fuzzy, like whatever. This movie takes the cheesy whatever romance trope and makes it into like, I don't want to say makes it into a real movie because that's not what I mean, but like it applies so much of that feeling of quality, and I think it helps that the cast is absolutely stacked. Like having Kate Winslet and Cameron Diaz as your leading ladies, come on, you are getting some quality acting. Yes. And I think this movie for me doesn't rely as heavily on the tropes as a lot of the earlier romance films had, like the ones that I literally watched and I'm like, oh, I'll never watch that again. Like some of the early Ryan Reynolds rom-coms were like, ooh, that didn't age well, but this one mostly does, because it's just two mostly wholesome relationships with some little caveats of like, ooh, that'd be weird today, but you know, could be worse.
And I think, and the writers did such a good job of this.
Yeah.
Because when I think of this time period, I think of Bridget Jones. And I don't like Bridget Jones. Because it feels like they exaggerated so many of her qualities that I was struggling to relate to her. Whereas this, it really relies on kind of those quieter qualities in people that film generally doesn't like to focus on. Like Iris, there's a really great scene where Miles got them 2 coffees. They're getting into the Blockbuster, and he's like, I didn't know if you wanted a little dollop of whipped cream or a big dollop. And she goes for the big dollop. And it's just like this really sweet, like, just a casual, it's like, yeah, it's like she wants all the whipped cream, and it's natural and it feels easy. And it's like, yeah, I'd do that in that situation too. Yeah. Whereas like in a Bridget Jones setting, the whipped cream would have become like some weird comedy shtick.
Or all the reasons why she's so fat.
Yes, exactly. And here it's just like, they're just being people. And it feels nice. It's like sitting into a warm bath. You're like, this is comforting and relatable.
Also, can we just, in that Blockbuster, you have a Robert De Niro cameo for absolutely no reason.
No.
And Dustin Hoffman.
Dustin Hoffman, thank you.
Because
Dustin Hoffman.
Miles is doing the wonderful thing of like, I love movie scores, and he talks about Jaws, and you have 2 notes, and you have a theme for a villain. And then he starts, it's like, oh, who could forget? And he starts singing,
Where have you gone?
Yeah.
Yes,
Joe
thank you.
DiMaggio.
Yeah.
And then it cuts to Dustin Hoffman, star of The Graduate. Like, can't go anywhere.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it.
And I'm like, why?
One
Why
of my
was this
favorite
in?
walk-on cameos.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was apparently just like in the neighborhood when they were shooting. It's like, what you guys doing? And oh, we're doing this movie. He's like, oh, cool. And they were like, do you want to do a cameo? And he's like, sure.
Yeah.
That's
he was
adorable.
just like fully right place, right time.
Yeah.
That's pretty amazing.
So
And also the nostalgia of a Blockbuster. I mean,
I miss a Blockbuster.
yeah.
I miss it.
I
loved walking around Blockbuster.
used to work at a Rogers Video, and for our American listeners, that's like a Blockbuster but Canadian. And I just, it was one of my favorite jobs, just because you get to hang out and watch movies and learn about all sorts of movies, and it was great. Like,
Just have such fond memories of my mom giving me a $10 bill, and my brother and I would walk down to our local video store, and we'd each get to pick, we'd pick a movie together, and then we'd each get a snack, and then we'd walk back home, and just poring over those shelves before we rented the Mewtwo Pokemon movie for the 30th time. But pretending we didn't know what we were going to get as soon as we walked in. We're like, we still got to browse.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm now. There it is. I don't know if anyone remembers Movie Gallery.
Mm-mm.
Oh man,
No.
just like the weirdest. Just defunct 14 years ago. I think most of my movie collection at one point was based on they went out of sale and really went out of business, and they had like the fire sales. Like, do you just want to buy a bunch of Blu-rays for $3? I was like, yes.
You went load
And
me
went
up.
crazy. Yeah, I'm just super nostalgic for old video chains at this point now.
Well, Amanda's video room in her
Oh.
house.
Oh my
Dream.
god.
And Iris went, whoa, that's intense. And I agree, and I love it.
Yeah, because she's got the projector, and I think it's like the AV, like the audio equipment.
Yeah.
The audio equipment scares me. Yeah.
She had like 3 different stereo sets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was genuinely, I don't know why you would need that many different ones in the same room, but
One for music, one for movies, one just to show off a little bit, maybe? Or different genres, perhaps?
One for a
yes.
rainy day, one for good weather.
This is my horror speaker. This is my rom-com speaker.
Yeah.
I had a friend in high school whose dad was really into home theater setup and had like I want to say 6-foot tall speaker towers. And just one day I was like, you guys want to hear how this sounds? We're like, okay. And he just cranked it up. It was incredible and terrifying at the same time.
Oh no.
Every dad in 2004.
Yeah.
I feel like my dad, if it came in a square black electronic, he had it. It was just like stacks on stacks. And you're like, he doesn't even know what half this does.
Did anyone have the experience of like being at like a family member's place and they're like, oh, just turn on the surround sound, and you just had no idea what to do?
Yeah, I
It's
just
like
passed the
walking
remote to my
into
dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like walking into some new person or new hotel room's bathroom and having to stand there and look at the shower and go, all right,
does this
how do
one work?"
you work?
Yeah.
You've just touched a deep fear that I have. I hate it every single time.
Speaking of the fact that Iris's house only has a giant clawfoot tub, I have questions logistically, but it's fine.
It's a
Everything
flex
runs
for
slower
movie
in the
purposes.
countryside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, if it helps, that entire cottage does not exist, and it's not
I
real,
know.
as
I know.
was revealed recently on social media.
I do.
It was
remember
just a
hearing
prop.
about that.
But it was a wonderful prop.
It was a wonderful prop. It was, and I don't know why they included the dog. Like, listen, don't get me wrong. I love dogs. Aloy did not enjoy
It
having,
ruins watching
having a
any
dog in the
movie if
movie.
you have a dog, but yeah.
Oh, there's so many movies I haven't seen yet because I know I can't watch them with Harrison, our dog Harrison Ford, because he barks at every single
Yep.
dog on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And I totally agree with you. The only kind of purpose the dog served was to like get her out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But she didn't really need to do that. Graham came to her.
Right.
Most women
And then
get a
she goes
dog
to
to
the
meet
tavern.
men. And I'm like, the man came to you. You don't need the dog.
Did she ever take the dog out?
She
For a
did.
walk
I don't
one
know.
time.
Did
Yeah,
they?
there's
Okay.
that scene where Iris and Graham are on the phone, and then Amanda calls her, and she's trying to do this back and forth swap.
Oh, yeah.
Amanda's
Oh
out
yeah, when
walking
she's
the
out.
dog.
Okay, I didn't notice she had the dog.
Yeah.
Then I thought she was
And
just
then
like
she
out
says,
shopping.
I can't believe you've had sex with the woman staying in my house. To Amanda.
She's like, no, it's still
Yeah.
Amanda.
She's like, he told you that?
yeah.
I'm like, that's my worst nightmare, actually. Forget showers, not knowing how they work. Telling someone something like that.
Not actually.
Just
switching
shouting
to
it
the other line.
aggressively. Yeah.
Screaming at them over the phone about
Yeah.
their sex life.
Yeah.
It's like, whoops.
I think the dog exists to give her something to bounce off of as a character when she does her sick cover of Mr. Brightside.
Yeah.
The dog is there to react to the sick cover. That's my theory.
I think they just needed a companion, and Iris had Arthur. So Amanda needed anybody that isn't a romantic lead.
Yeah, there's no
And
really
it was a
close
dog.
neighbors.
No. Oh. So we're getting close to the end, friends. So,
Could talk about
is there
this movie
anything
forever.
else? But alas, we have only 60 minutes. And so, is there anything else that we really want to, like, bite into? Whether that's the delight of going from an itty-bitty, non-existent cottage to a giant house in LA, or vice versa. Or anything else we want to talk about before we start to wrap up just a little bit.
Yeah,
I feel like I've talked a lot.
that's okay. I want to talk about how I don't like the characterization of Amanda. I think it's weird at a lot of times because they put her forward as this super successful, high power Hollywood businesswoman, effectively, right?
Yeah.
Very, very good at what she does. Clearly, they make a point of that. She's the best at what she does. But in so many other scenarios, the film makes a point of like making her bad at stuff. Whether it's when she goes to like drive into town after she arrives in England, and is just like clearly has either never driven before in her life, certainly has never driven in the snow, but they just make her completely inept at it. And there are a couple other things that they do that throughout the film with, where it's just like everyday mundane stuff, like making like the coffee maker. She doesn't know how to plug in the coffee maker. It's like, what? Yeah. Why does this little sub-characterization exist where she's clearly very capable of everything, but is at the same time inept in so many ways?
Yeah,
It's a little odd because she's clearly like she's got the crazy sound system, multiple sound systems at her home theater. Mm-hmm. She's got a high-tech edit bay in her home for her work.
Yeah. So
it is a little, although I guess it is also kind of like she's got really specialized knowledge about these things.
No,
yeah.
I kind of see it as a bit of, I was talking about it earlier, in that there was a lack of hamming it up or exaggeration in some characters, but I totally agree that the character of Amanda, they're trying to demonstrate that she's out of her comfort zone, being her bubble, her area of expertise. But yeah, that doesn't mean that you don't know how to make coffee.
Right.
Or that appliances need to be plugged in.
Yeah.
Like, so it is kind of that, like...
Yeah.
Yeah, but I totally agree with you. She and Graham are probably my least favorite of the core four.
Yes.
Just because they get a bit more of that Hollywood exaggeration treatment. Like, you can't believe you didn't tell me you had kids. Oh, you plug your coffee makers in over here. It's like, okay.
I mean, I will play a little bit of devil's advocate for Amanda here, because, like, I have my moments of being a little bit, shall we say, ditzy. And Cameron Diaz, in her early career, even as the Charlie's Angels, like, she was the ditzy one. And there are a lot of people, and I count myself among this sometimes, who are good at a lot of specific things, but when it comes to, like, real life stuff, sometimes it just doesn't work.
No, you're absolutely right, and I think everybody does have those moments. Of course, I think maybe what rubs me the wrong way about it is that it's all of her ex-boyfriend and was kind of vocalizing those same things of how she's not good at all of these different things, and I guess maybe what I would have liked to have seen was that characterization kind of counter those more instead of mirroring it or demonstrating the bad things that Amanda had internalized about herself from other relationships and stuff.
Proving him wrong more.
Yeah. Instead of being like, oh no, he was right, she can't make coffee for herself.
Which she like talks about how her ex told her multiple times how bad at sex she is, and Graham's like, you're already doing really good, because she's being all flirty and stuff. And it is interesting that the one thing that they really push back on, like, no, you're actually really good at this, that guy was just a jerk, that's the one thing.
Yeah, right,
That's
it's just sex.
That's
Yeah,
the one.
none of the other things. Yeah.
Everywhere else you're nonsense, but that you're good at.
And they
It's
even
okay.
do it later on with Graham. After Graham tells her he loves her, afterwards he's like, well, maybe if you hadn't reacted like that, it could be going better, or something to that effect. It's just like, kind of puts it back on her for not reacting correctly.
Yeah.
I don't know, I just feel like it kind of undermines her development a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll also play devil's advocate here and say that, like, I'm sure, I mean, I'm from LA, but in my mind, there's just like Starbucks everywhere. So it's possible that she's just like...
Oh, for the coffee thing specifically? Sure, yeah.
For the coffee thing specifically. Maybe
Fair
it's
enough.
Like, well, there's always a runner to get the coffee for me, or I just go to Starbucks myself.
Yeah. It's just, I think it boils back down to that.
Yeah.
She's a fish out of water.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. And unfortunately, sometimes movies really do have to ham that up to drive home the point.
Yeah.
They do. You only have this, I guess, 2 hours and 15 minutes this movie was, but you only have this short period of time with which to get to know these characters as they are also changing. So yeah, you gotta exaggerate parts so that you can get it across to your audience, of course.
But I totally agree with you. And the older I've gotten, the more stuff like that has rubbed me the wrong way. Because I'm now closer in age to these characters. And I'm like, okay, I know how to do that.
Yeah.
Don't make it seem like blondes can't do that. I'm sensitive about it.
That's not even a thing I had considered, but you're right. That was absolutely a trope that was still alive and well in 2006.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I get it. Well, I guess this is a audio podcast. I am blonde. So naturally.
You know what? Me too,
Yes.
actually.
And but I definitely encountered a lot of that growing up. I don't really get it so much anymore.
That is something that has definitely died out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But there's still a bit of that subliminal stuff when you watch, and like that might be another reason why I don't like Bridget Jones now that I think about it. Because
Yeah,
they do
she's
make her
very
out
much
to be
blonde.
this like
Blonde.
unintelligent
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, she's actually incredibly intelligent.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot of reasons I could say that Bridget Jones was a problematic movie, but we're not here for that today.
That's not the film.
So, okay. As we're wrapping up then,
Yeah.
usually what we do is Ben says why you would watch this for an aspect of the film, why you would or wouldn't watch it, whether it's like pacing or, perspective or whatever. And then I usually say, if you want to watch something on a Friday night, what makes it this? So, hey, Rachel. If,
Yes.
I don't know if you want to talk about if you would learn something from this, but like, if you had to boil the holiday down into, 5 sentences or less, what brings you the most joy out of this film? If the listener is like, do I want to watch The Holiday?
From a narrative perspective, watching two women, and maybe to a lesser extent, the two male leads, discover new aspects of their self-identity and grow more sure about what they want and nurture that within themselves and the people around them is so deeply satisfying. And for I don't want to say just any woman, any person who has been in a situation where they have loved someone who has treated them poorly, who have loved someone who didn't know they even existed, Iris's growth and transformation in how she views herself is incredibly encouraging and healing.
Incredible.
I'm gonna throw this one, Brandon, if you're kind of just looking for something fun to watch on a Friday night, why watch this movie? Or why not watch this?
Well, for all my criticisms, I do think that this is a very enjoyable movie if you go into it taking it at face value. You know, I think that there are some very, very good characters in Iris and Arthur and Miles, and if you just take their characters sincerely, you get great examples of how you can be good people to, you know, in relationships and just both platonic and romantic relationships. I think that's a fun thing to watch. And the Cameron Diaz Jude Law relationship is also fun if you take it at face value. If you look at it as, you know, they're both consenting adults who want to have a fling and then it develops into more, you can appreciate that too. And I think the whole movie can be very enjoyable if you suspend your disbelief a little bit.
Totally fair. Totally fair. I think that brings us to the end of
It does.
the holiday bonus episode, The Holiday.
Sure does.
Or where can people find you?
Well, y'all can find this podcast at Coffee Kurosawa Pod on Instagram and as Coffee and Kurosawa on Facebook, as well as on Letterboxd, which I think Ben is already going to talk about. You can also find me at Farrah Sarpkaya on Insta and Threads, and as sarpkaya.ca, where I lend my voice as a voice actor. Ben, where can the people find you?
The best way to follow my film thoughts is on Letterboxd, where I'm at Benjimon, or you can just hit me up in the comments on any of these social channels for the show.
So this has been a special holiday episode. It dropped on Christmas Eve, 2024. So catch us next week for, gosh, I probably should have prepared for exactly what you're going to be seeing next week, but it'll be something cool. And we hope that you enjoy it. So until next time, everyone, thank you for listening, and have a happy holiday if you celebrate.
Thank you.